Cool. What I'm going to do is just run through taking the cold out of cold calling. There's certain ways I like to do it. I know that Anthony has done it like this in the past, and I know that there's a lot of, let's say, stigma around cold calling, that it's shit and that you're just like everyone else and there's no way to stand out, but really you're just not doing it the best way, in my opinion. And obviously this is the way I do it, and I've done it for a long time, but there's multiple ways you can do it. Some of the best guys that I've worked with just hit 200 dials a day and they get the numbers. But for me, I'm much more a fan of hitting 30 to 50 sort of conversations and then converting like 3 to 5, because it's much more targeted. You're going to get a lot more buy-in. You can hook them in more and they're going to be a lot more engaged than if you just fucking endlessly call people. And for me, a lot of this is not everyone's going to be in sales. Not everyone's going to be, you know, an SDR or making cold calls, but the same principles apply for closing deals, for making cold calls, for getting jobs, meeting people. Like, it's all the same concept. It's just how you want to approach it and how you want to frame it. So some of you guys don't know who I am, some of you do. So I just thought I'd start with who the fuck am I? Because realistically, I'm just some guy on the internet that smokes ciggies. So realistically, if we start from the jump, I worked in timeshare when I was in Mexico. I was at 23. This photo is me there, looking like a sort of like 80s porn star / gangster with the capris, ciggy, sparkling water and Gucci sunnies. Slick back hair was obligatory, but at those places, that's where I first learned to sell. It wasn't cold calling at all. It was closing deals, taking people on timeshare tours. And if you know anything about timeshare, it's one of the most scumbaggery industries in the world. If you're British and you bought a timeshare in Spain back in like the 90s, you would have got scammed 100%. But in the States, in Mexico and Canada, it's a huge industry. It's like a $3 billion industry. So it's bigger than like Major League Baseball. So in there, it's a lot more accepted. People enjoy it. It's still a fucking buzzing business model at the moment. But that's where I started. On average, I was doing about 100K a month in closed deals. Second tour, I closed 29 grand. Fortunately, people like me, if you want to work in sales, one of my top tips is go to a country where people don't, like if you're American, sell in Australia or the UK, because it's a pattern interrupt from the beginning, which we'll touch on more in cold calling. But the pattern interrupt for me was being a young British guy living in Mexico. It's like, you know, if you stand out, you'll always win. Next is I helped start a door-to-door lead generation company in COVID. In door-to-door, I don't know if you know it, but you'll usually have an appointment setter. So you knock in leads. Do you want to have a free quote for resin driveway, windows, doors, conservatories? If they do, you get 100 quid if the salesperson turns up. And then if they sell, you get a percentage of the sale as well. So in COVID, everyone's at home. So me and it was actually my ex-girlfriend's brother was like, everyone's at home. So that means everyone we book will get paid on, because it's not like the husband's out of work or the wife's not in, you know, she's doing the daycare run. Okay, if everyone's going to be at home, we can absolutely clean up. So we set up that, did it for COVID, did it for 6 months, around 100 doors a day, must have knocked about 12,000 doors in total. So for us, easy money maker. And that's like the essence of cutting your teeth and getting into any sort of sales. If someone's got sales experience with cold calling or door to door, I'm always a big fan, because it's like the trenches work. You know, being a high ticket closer is great, but it's a bit like you're like the princess, to be honest. Like if you've done this shit before, then I know that you're going to be a good closer in the future. Next, I started a digital marketing cold call agency in Bali. A friend of mine's got a real successful social media marketing agency, and I just thought I'd help him get more leads. So built and trained a little team. Honestly, after about 4 months, I had to go home. Didn't really work out, but that was years ago, so we'll skip over that, but it was in there. Next was I went back to Mexico, did a business-to-business, face-to-face sales for my aunt's company, Innovest, which is a timeshare product. That consisted of meeting like hotel owners. So if you know, like Sandos, Iberostar, Hilton, Wyndham, Hyatt hotels, all the Spanish directors there. You go there, you flirt with them, you get them to buy your product, that sort of thing. When I came back from Mexico, I worked for a B2B SaaS company, which is where Anthony, the guy from New Jersey, it seems, is from, also worked. And there you're making between 100 to 150 cold calls a day. I was actually the SDR manager there, so I had a team of about 15 people. But initially when I joined, they were like, we don't know how good you are. You could have made all this shit up on your CV. They were like, do 3 months of cold calling. So I did 3 months, fucking smashed it, and then became the manager after that. After that, I moved to Bali and helped start a landing page e-commerce design agency. They were doing about 2K a month when I joined them. I came as a sales consultant and took them to 30K in 3 weeks by landing a white label agency. It was the biggest landing page conversion rate increasing agency in Europe, called Purple Fire, and also about 5 independent clients, whether it was men's hair, like in men's supplements, women's supplements, all looking to increase their conversion rate. And I did the full sales cycle on that. So cold calling them, messaging them on different platforms, which we'll touch about in a moment, and then closing it. And then most recently, I'm now remote closing in Bali, 60 to 80% close rate on average. And yeah, I have 2 offers, and obviously I have cowboy closers, which is the motive, like, let's be honest. But for me, I'm a big believer in, like, you're not gonna, let me put it this way. If you go to uni to learn entrepreneurship, you better hope that the fucking guy teaching it is an entrepreneur, which most likely he isn't. So for me, I want to live and breathe that if I'm not closing deals, then why the fuck would I teach you, and why would you listen to me? So whatever happens, I'll always be closing deals. So I believe that's the ethos that I have. And there's the little intro about me. So let's move on. For me, the biggest thing for everything, if you came to the last workshop, it was all about mindset, belief setting, and goals. And this is no fucking different. Mindset that wins in cold calling is just the fucking impenetrable one. I have Michael Corleone there just because I think he's a fucking legend. And if you ever watch the Godfather films, you'll know that his mindset is dialed in. Never in a rush, never fucking really that angry, make some rash moves. But as a whole, the mindset is, this is what you want to have, that you run this shit. Like, if you have a little look, like, a lot of people think they're interrupting someone. They think that they're an annoyance. They think that they're a ball ache. And if you come with that energy, they feel it, they smell it, and then you embody it. So for me, the biggest thing is, like, just knowing that you're not an interruption. Like, you bring a fucking lot of value. Like, I know it's the bottom point, but, like, realistically, the value that you bring is, not only are you going to solve this fucking person's problems and you're going to make them more money, so you're helping the business that you're calling, but also the business that you fucking work for. Unless they've got shit hot marketing and they get all inbound leads that are ready to buy, if you're doing cold calls, you're essentially the lifeblood of that business. One of the guys in Cowboy Closers was speaking to me the other day, and he said, I bring in 54% of the revenue for the business, and I cold call my leads and I close them. I was like, so what happens if you leave that business? He was like, well, they lose 54% of the revenue. So the business would essentially halve. So when you look at it like that, like from that perspective and that point, if you're cold calling, whether it's for a business, for yourself, for new jobs, like, you're the engine of that business. You can have the best business in the world and the best product, but if you've got no one selling it or no way to fucking get it to market, then it's never going to last. It's never going to go anywhere. So for me, embodying that energy of, I fucking make this business tick, I make this business money, and my actual worth is based on the amount of revenue that I bring in, then you're going to go into a lot of these calls with the right mindset. Other things you can do is stand up. Like, a lot of people sit down and make calls, and that's fine if you're the laissez-faire, I don't really care style. But a lot of people need the energy, they need the motivation, they need the power that they get from when they stand up properly. And it's more conversational, it's more flowy. So standing up is always a big thing. Next for me is detaching from the outcome. I feel like this helps a lot in life, not just in cold calling. But if you go in thinking, I want to sell this, I want to book this, like, you're too attached. Like, that's the end goal, of course, but detach from it. The more you can focus on, like, actually qualifying them, making sure that they're a good fit, winning them over, you know, whether you bring them on as a friend or a client or you flirt with them, it doesn't really matter what you do. If you just focus on having a good conversation, the rest will follow. I'm a big believer in baby steps. Everyone tries to overcomplicate shit, and really life is pretty simple, and so is cold calling. Pick up the phone, dial, have a good conversation. If it leads to a fucking conversion, sweet. If it doesn't, you'll take a lesson from it, or you ask for a referral. A lot of people don't ask for referrals, which is something I'm very big on as well. But have a good conversation, detach from the outcome, and the rest will follow. It's like, don't make the barrier to entry too big, otherwise you'll never get it done. Rejection-wise, probably one of the best skills you can do. I've said this before, and, you know, whether or not it happens, but, like, if I ever have kids, if I have a son, he'll be knocking doors from an early age, because I think rejection is the number one way to just get thicker skin, especially in the world we live in now. I'm not big on politics, I'm not going to go into it, but, like, everyone's soft as fuck, it would seem. And the softer you are, the less you get. People run you over, people do shit, People will fucking ask for money, never give it back. All that bullshit that goes on in most people's lives is because people don't have the bollocks to set boundaries and say no, because they're too soft, because they haven't been rejected enough, in my mind. So for me, every call you make is just one step closer. You're going to have, if you're a shit cold caller, out of 100 calls, 2 will say yes. And if you're a good cold caller, out of 100 calls, you can probably push that to, 7 to 10. But you're still going to be getting a ton of no's. Like, as soon as you get over that, you'll be fine. And I actually got no tattooed on me in Greek. And it wasn't because I wanted to fucking get closer to every no, but it was more so I just said no to more things in my personal life. And that's a bit of I'm digressing now. But as a whole, embrace the fucking no. As long as you have a good conversation, you get a referral, you can even book a follow-up. It's not that deep at the end of the day. Like, I've even put a little quote at the bottom, which is actually what my old man said about fucking 20 years ago. Simon Weston, the worst thing they're going to say is no. That's it. Get over yourself, get it done, and you'll be fine. Then reframe your role. Again, going into a role, going into a call. If you think that you're begging, needy, not valuable, similar to the not interruption point, but like, that's not the energy you want. You're qualifying them to make sure they're a good fit. And this actually bleeds over into, like, if you're getting an interview, I'm a big believer in they need you more than you need them. Like, don't sit on a fucking interview call or a closing call or a initial SDR call, cold call, and be the person that's has to sell themselves. You're calling because you see value in what they have and what you can bring them. So I'm going to qualify you to make sure you're a good fit. This is all the reframes. And then the final one, which is probably my favorite one, is positioning yourself as an equal. A lot of the time when I've had cold call teams, they've been younger, 18, 19, 20. They call a 45-year-old CEO who's been through the thick of it. They feel instantly, not imposter syndrome, but they feel like they're below them on the pecking order. And for me, again, it's just the mindset. It's like, nah, you might be fucking young, but if you put yourself as a business owner to business owner, oranges to oranges, they're going to have the conversation that you want. They're going to have the conversation that they need. And it's not the easiest skill to just fucking tell a youngster, because obviously they have all the internal beliefs that they got to get over anyway. But at the end of the day, it's like, I want to deal with people that are on my level. Everyone wants to deal with people on their level. You don't really want to be dealing with people below you unless they work for you and you're paying them. So if you call someone who's a CEO of an enterprise company, become that fucking person. If you're calling a fucking small business owner that is stressed as fuck, perfect. You could be changing their life, but you need to position yourself as the equal, because if you don't, then you'll never win. A lot of it is about frames. I didn't add this in here, but a big book on frames is Pitch Anything by All-In Claff. I'll put this in a link at the end because it's probably one of the best sales books that I've ever read / listened to. And for me, it's just all about the frame that you come in with. But that's just initial bits on mindset. Next is fighting for the first 5 seconds. Stephen Bartlett's in there because I heard him say it on a podcast a while ago. And he's not really related to sales. He's more marketing. But like in life, whatever it is, the first seconds are so important. I've always been a big believer in not wasting the first 5 seconds. But like a lot of the time, if someone says hello on the phone, they're expecting you to say pitch. I'll usually say hello back. And then they'll say hello back. Because I know that the first 5 seconds, they're like, what the fuck is going on? They're like, this isn't a normal sales call. And that's where the pattern interruption comes in here. You catch them on guard or make them listen. You call someone, they're like, hello. And you say, hello. They're like, hello. You've just fucked with them already. And it's not a game of fucking with people, but like, they're like, what the fuck is this guy? And then you've just won the first 5 seconds. I see it as you go fishing. You get one fish, you get one hook and a marlin, that bitch is jumping off. You get 2, 3, or 4, and you're working all the way. So you fight for the first 5 seconds initially, because everyone judges people straight away from how they look, how they sound, and everything else that they do. If you have a different and strong opener, like avoid weak openers like how high is now a good time. Like honestly, like you might as well not even bother calling if you're going to do that. But for me, my opener has always been pattern interruption based. And further down the line, I can show you some bits. Like there's a lot of good guys on LinkedIn, mainly LinkedIn, a lot of British guys who have, permission-based openers or non-permission-based openers. Like it doesn't really matter what you do, as long as you do it and you get better at it. But for me, weak opener is coming from a weak place of like your mentality, your voice, your tone, from slouching. So if you can be strong, direct, I'd always say this to the guys that I was teaching at the time for cold calling is I'd rather you go in too strong because you can always dial it back. But if you go in soft, you're fucked. It's so much harder to position yourself as authority if you come in as a bitch. So go in strong. You don't have to be a prick. But like go in strong, and then if the person isn't receptive to it, they've got a different personality type, you can bring it down. You can easily win it because people don't remember the start of the call by the end of the call. Like they only remember really the last bit of the call and how you made them feel. And then finally, the confidence and energy. You got to make them stay on the call. And that goes back to the initial point of just being the person that they need to be. I don't want to do business with someone who can't handle their shit. So you need to sound like you can handle your shit. And that's the first 5 seconds. Really not that deep. A lot of the time, people won't even answer the phone. And I didn't actually add this in there. So this is a good point because I need to improve this. But people don't double dial. For me, if someone called me now, I'd fucking hang up. If they called me again, I'd be like, what the fuck does this person want? And because I'm on a meeting with you, I wouldn't answer it anyway. But in your day-to-day life, if someone calls you twice or 3 times, you'll answer it, regardless of what it is. Because you'll be like, even if it's an unknown number from Quebec, I'll be like, yeah, whatever. But 2 or 3 times, like this person must really need something. It might be even an emergency. And then you've at least got them on the phone. And then you fight for the first 5 seconds. We touched on it briefly, but there's a lot of different personality types. We're not going to jump into it here, but there's books like Surrounded by Idiots that you can read. But a lot of people, realistically, you're going to be looking at A or B type. They majority of the time going to be the business owners that you call, the sales managers that you call. And if you get like C and D, maybe you call a chief finance officer like CFO or CTO. They might be a bit different, but realistically, most of the time you'll be wanting to go for CEO, CRO, sales director, COO, and they're going to be a bit more dominant, direct. And for me, all you do is mirror. Like it's probably the easiest trick in the book for a lot of people. Mirror the energy. If they're dominant, direct, they don't think they've got time to waste, fucking be the same. Like if someone calls me and they've got fucking bullshit on the other line, I'm like, see you later. I won't even answer. I'll just hang up because I'm like, if you're gonna do it, do it. And I'm really receptive to cold calls. I fucking love it because I've done it. And then if you look at a lot of these business owners that you would be calling, say they're like 30, 40, 50, I can almost guarantee you that they would have knocked doors or cold called to make that business where it is. So they respect the game, but they don't respect their time being wasted. So be direct, be strong and confident. And then with the B types as well, similar, but to be honest, I found that most people are A type in that sort of respect. However, I'll touch on this more in a moment. When you start to cold call in the different manner where you take the cold out of it, you'll meet all of these different personality types. But we'll touch on that in a moment. Voice and energy. This photo isn't really related, but it's just another one from when I was in Mexico with a friend of mine, and we're just still dressed up as kind of like the 80s Miami salesman. I kind of love it. Anyway, the voice and energy, the confident expert is always the winner. If you're calling someone, you want their attention, you want them to listen to you, be confident and be the expert in your field. Whether you pick a niche in what you're doing, and for me, when I was doing a lot of cold calls, I would always call the East Coast of the US because I knew they had a lot of construction, machinery, and like mining industries there. So I knew if I hit that pocket, I think it was like New Hampshire, I can't really remember, New Hampshire area, loads of those businesses were there. Loads of people that were there would have a similar sort of personality type and they knew each other. So for me, I could call and I was the expert in mining, machinery and construction in the East Coast of the US. You know, you push that confident expert energy and they'll listen to you because everyone likes to listen to experts. That's why people will listen to podcasts with fucking huge guests because they're an expert. You can also go in more as a friendly guide, the conversational, easygoing type. For me, this is a better in when you speak to other people in the business that aren't necessarily decision makers, because you don't want to push them away. You don't want to, you know, not earn their trust. There'll be a lot of people in the business that are very helpful tools, whether they're, for me, I love talking to non-decision makers because I can get every bit of information that I need from them. So then when I hit a decision maker, I've got your number. And then finally, the curious investigator. This is something that you can pair with the confident expert. You can pair all of them together, to be honest, throughout the call. But the curious investigator comes in and it's very off the cuff, like not off the cuff, it's very offhand. There's no threat. You know, they're not in their reptilian brain. They're not like fight or flight. It's very much like, okay, I'm here to just inquire about things. I'm here to learn about things. I'm not here to pitch you. I'm just here to gather information. But again, it depends on the person that you're speaking to, and it depends on the purpose of the call. And for me, having a purpose and a direct purpose in every call is essential. Otherwise, you go in without intention, then again, you might as well not call. Oh. Cool. This is the main thing that I like touching on, because that's what actually takes the cold out of cold calling. And again, there's no reason or rhyme to this, but this is when I was doing the B2B sales for the big decision makers in Mexico. And it's just 4 old white dudes sitting on a yacht with me. Like realistically, they've got all the purse strings, they make all the decisions. And the reference to this is when I was actually making the meetings at the network event, whatever you want to call it, all I would do is see what they drank, see what they smoked. And then when they were off the phone, because these guys are always on the fucking phone, I would go over with a drink and a cigar that they smoked and be like, here you go. So for me, not a lot of people are going to be in the face-to-face industry with high profile sales directors, hotel directors, but it's the same concept. You do your research, and I don't know if you guys watch too much content, but Luke Belmar did a bit on it and it's gone really viral. And I think he's kind of gone viral because it's his wording isn't great, but the concept is still there. Like you realize what people like, what they do, what they don't like, their pains, and you'll fucking unlock every key to the kingdom, because everyone wants their shit solved, but not everyone has the time. So for these guys, I just knew, what do you like? Because that for me is the easiest in. And again, it's an easy way to win the first 5 minutes of a conversation with someone. On the phone, a little bit different. This is why I do this. Leverage internal connections. I spoke with John in marketing and he mentioned this challenge. For me, it's always my favorite avenue. You go onto LinkedIn, you go onto a company, you add everyone in sales, you add everyone in marketing, or you call the gatekeeper and you just chat to them. You're not there to sell anything. You're not there to book a meeting. You're not there to close them. You're there to gather information. You've got a magazine for a gun, for example. John in marketing is telling you all the issues with lead generation, all the mess, all the mash, all the mismatch, can't even speak, all the mismatch of how the messaging for the lead generation to sales doesn't add up. They're telling you that they're getting all these qualified leads, but the salespeople just can't close them. Something like that. All of this information that you get, imagine you then call the decision maker. It's Connor. I've just speaking with John in marketing. It's a good guy. And he mentioned that you were the best person to speak to about solving your, lead generation problem, whatever it is. You've got, initially, they're going to be like, who the fuck is Connor? But you know John, you spoke to John, you know my problems, and you're coming in with a bit of a helping hand. I might as well give you a few minutes. If you go in cold, Connor from, for example, lead forensics, just want to talk to you about your fucking lead generation. He's like, see you later, mate. But if you come in, just been speaking with John, I know he's the director of marketing, and he was mentioning that at the moment your lead flow is quite low, but also the sales side, your conversion rate is like less than 10%. I'd be interested, like, why is it less than 10%? The closers crap, your lead shit, and they're going to be like, they might just be like, who the fuck are you? And then I'm a big fan of just addressing that. But if you know everything about them, it's very hard for them to not answer the question, because that will be on their mind. These guys are day in, day out, looking at the numbers, looking at the data. How can we increase this? How can we lower our, CPL, cost per lead? How can we increase our lifetime value? All they're thinking of is about this. And if someone calls them with a little bit of information or some helpful sort of insights, why wouldn't I give you a few minutes? Next is the referencing competitors. And this is what I focused on a lot with, like I said, the machinery trading companies in the East Coast of the US. I've just been working with Dealer Spike. They're like the fucking business owners. I know that. Like, they know these people. If you pick a niche and they know them. I've just been speaking with John at Dealer Spike. He was saying, this is his problem, this is that problem. As you're in the same industry and a couple miles away, thought I'd just reach out to you to see if they had the same problem. Boom. Realistically, same industry, same business. They'll either tell you we have the same problem, which is perfect, or no, we don't have the same problem. And they'll use that as like a bit of a, we're better than them. Okay, cool. Sounds like you're doing a better job than Dealer Spike. Give yourself a pat on the back. What is your issue? You know, you're just using these little wins, making yourself sound familiar, and then working your way in. And then finally is like niche specific knowledge. This again helps if you're in a role for a while and you know more about it. Maybe you've got a bit of a brand online, or you know, you become a bit of an industry leader. I forgot what the actual name is for that. Thought leader. I hate that phrase. Anyway, I'm not going to use it. So if you go in with that knowledge, if you can leverage all of these, then you're onto a fucking absolute gold mine. Because for me, if someone says you need to make 200 cold calls today, and I'm like, why? Oh, because we need you to book 2 meetings. I'm like, how about I just book 2 meetings from 20 calls? You know, I'm a big fan of doing shit properly, doing it with research, and then making life easier for myself. Because otherwise you're just going to be fighting an uphill battle. You know, if you want to make 200 cold calls and do no research, sweet, you'll get the numbers, but it's not going to make you feel great. You're not going to feel fulfilled, and you're not going to have very good conversations. So if you can leverage all these other elements, then you can just make your approach much more targeted, and on the back end, it's more likely to sell. The elephant in the room. This is also a favorite of mine. Easy way to win people over. The image on the right is the brain, and I'm not I don't know what it's called, neurologist. I don't know too much about the brain, but I know there's 3 types of the brain. Initially, it's the reptilian brain. So it's instinctual dinosaur brain. This is like, can I eat it? Can I fuck it? Can I kill it? So that is, guard is up. Every time you get a cold call, you're going to start there. Every time you get a closing call, they'll start there. This guy's here to sell me. This girl's here to sell me. People make decisions in the emotional, in the limbic part of the brain. And the neocortex is the rational, or the thinking part of the brain, the logical side. So the best place to sell anyone is limbic, because they're emotional, their emotions are high. You can tie that to different anchors in their life, whether it's from childhood or business struggles to their desired outcome. But they'll start in reptilian. So the goal is to move them from reptilian and have them in limbic for as long as possible so they buy. Obviously, there's always going to be a part of like rational thinking. Do the numbers make sense? Blah, blah, blah. But as long as you get them out of reptilian, you'll at least have a fighting chance to move forward, because that's going to be what holds you back. So for me, the best way to do that is just to humanize myself, whether it's swearing, whether it's, you know, what's the word, not degrading myself, but making a fucking joke out of my monotone voice, for example, is always my go-to, because they're thinking it, so I say it. If I'm on a call and I'm going on for a bit, and you're probably thinking, who the fuck is this Connor guy who's just monologued at me for 30 seconds? Well, I'll tell you, John, because they're probably thinking it, you know? You're probably thinking, how can I actually help you? Well, let me tell you, because this just lowers their defenses. And it's just going to shift all of their mindset to, well, at least this guy knows what's going on. He has the foresight and the exterior understanding of this conversation to know that I'm getting bored, or I need this answer, or I don't trust this guy. Just broach it. Like, the easiest way to fucking get through people is to just broach what they're already thinking, because it disarms them. Like, they feel more natural. That's why I'm a big advocate for swearing. And, you know, other business owners will have different ideas, but everyone swears. Why not me? You know? And it differentiates you from every other fucking robotic salespeople. And I'm sure AI will make this even more robotic in the future. So at the end of the day, it's like, address shit that's going on and just work through it like that. You know, a big line of mine, I know this isn't necessarily the elephant in the room, but this is just a little take home, is you get people when they're driving, and everyone gets thrown off by this because it's a bit of a reflex objection, is where they're like, oh, I'm driving. Cool. Well, Connor, do me one favor. Keep your eyes on the road and your ears on me. Bomb. I've demanded a little bit of respect. I've told them what to do. And I've also addressed that they're driving, that they can't fucking drive and take a call, but you can do a call hands-free. Like, it's not the best scenario, but it's not illegal. So again, just addressing what they're doing, even if they're, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of other examples, but the point being, if they say something's going on, or you can feel that there's some weird tension, or they're getting bored of your conversation, broach it. Tools and tech. This is just a little bit of, I guess, housekeeping that's also helpful when you're looking for the right people on LinkedIn or You're actually doing some due diligence so you can find the right people to speak to. Apollo, Cognizant, and Lusher are the best places to get their phone number and email. If you've got their phone number and email, you won't have to speak to the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper, for people who don't know, is the reception person that's sat on the desk. Most times it's a woman, and they're like the receptionist, like admin. And when you call them, they're pretty much told, don't accept this call. So for me, there's a couple of ways you can get through it, and I'll add this in because I didn't add it in, which is a bit of a faux pas on my part, but apologies. But getting past the gatekeeper, easiest way to do is just to win them over, understand them a bit, talk to them a bit, or you just barrel through them. Depends on their personality type. But again, I'm not going to touch on that too much, but the assumption is always big. What's the reason you're calling? Yeah, I'm calling for John. John who? John, the owner, John. So I'm in a rush. Can you put me through? You can barrel through them. Not the best way to do it, but that's why I recommend Apollo, Cognizant, and Lusher. So you can call a decision maker directly on their phone number. You navigate all of that bullshit already. If you want to find out who, if LinkedIn isn't that helpful, sometimes it's not. You can go on Company's House if you're in the UK. You can go on Better Business Bureau if you're in the US and find out who the decision makers are in the business. And you can just name drop these people when you're there. Clutch is a great way, I don't know if you know it, but to find agencies. So if you want to be looking for, if you do B2B sales and you want to look for the best company in this space, Clutch is really good, has loads of reviews, and you can go from there. And then Slack is, I'll give you the way I made this business go to 30 grand in 3 weeks was I went into Slack and I went into Slack communities. And when I was in these Slack communities, all I did was, I'm in e-commerce and we make landing pages. So what tech and tools do these fucking people use where they're going to have troubleshooting or customer service issues with? So in my mind, I was like, cool. Repliverse is a big one. Shopify is a big one. What other fucking development platforms were there? Either way, you get my point. Everyone nowadays, if you look at their tech stack, they've got all this tech that they're using, and customer service isn't always the best. So the best way that companies do it, a lot of these big, more enterprise companies, is they'll have Slack channels where, they've got customer service, they've got updates, they've got, posting jobs. And you can go in there and you'll find all of these business owners that are saying, I'm looking for a reputable developer. I'm looking for a reputable XYZ. And then you just message them. You speak to the business owners. Don't be a bell end. You're just like, I do this. Or you find the name of them. Then you book a meeting in with them. There's all these ways you can research. And I feel like research is the key. It's like if you ask any business owner, the first thing you do is research if there's a message or market fit. If there's, actually an addressable market and there's space for your product in the market. It's the same with researching for cold calls. So you need to make sure that you make sure there's people there. You make sure that you're a good fit, and then you call them. And the photo below is just, I built this out myself. It's not special. There's no fucking fancy CRM. Not doing that. I literally just put name, website, industry, and then social media accounts, the traffic that they get. It depends. It will differ depending on what your need is with the business, but I needed to know the traffic. It just helped when I was pitching. And for this, you can see, I don't know if this is a breach of data because I got their emails from online anyway, but Purple Fire, boom, got the owner, got him on a call, closed it. Commerce Essentials is another company we worked with. And for me, I think a lot of people over engineer a lot of things. So basic always sells. Making it sit. I have this a lot with the current appointment setters I'm working with. And I've noticed that even though they're warm leads, I mean have inquired with you, given your email, downloaded a PDF, joined the free community, whatever it is. And then you got cold leads, which are, they have no idea who you are. They've never heard of you before, unless, they've heard through the grapevine. But there's no real difference. But what a lot of people do is they just deep it. They go into the call and they think, how can I make this person sell? Well, for me, if you're cold calling, your job isn't to sell it. Your job is to make sure it fucking turns up on time. And they sit there engaged for the 30, 40 minutes, whatever it is that you've booked in. The best way to do that is to get them to accept the calendar invitation. If you're in a B2C operation, a little bit different. Most normal people who are just going about their daily lives, they're tradies, whatever, they're not going to live and die by their calendar. But that's where the importance of, keeping regular contact with them comes in. But if you're doing B2B, every business owner, every sales director, every marketing director, one of their tabs will be probably Google Calendar. And you know that if you don't add that to your Google Calendar, you don't press accept, then you won't get any notifications of it. And it'll just be like an outline box, if it even makes it to your calendar. So for me, a lot of it is just making sure that they accept the calendar invitation, they fucking like you, they can actually use your services, and you've done your due diligence beforehand. Like for me, if someone called me, they said, I've spoken to Tom, Dick, and Harry that you work with. They said you're struggling with this. We do this and we can help with this. Do you want to talk about it? I'd be like, yes. Like, unless I'm trying to just not take a cold call. If it ticks all of my internal boxes of what I need and it's been on my to-do list, which is another tab of mine, then why wouldn't I spend 20, 30 minutes? Because this person's done the research, they've come with good energy, they've positioned themselves as an equal to me, and they just fucking come with value, to be honest. And then finally, well, the second one is like, why do they come? And I kind of just touched on that there. But again, don't deep it. I've got many meetings in the calendar by flirting with people, by making people laugh, by having a joke with them, by referencing, for example, the first call that I did for the landing page agency, I went down to the guys, the other founders. I said, just so you know, I'm going to call this lead. I'm going to book it. He's going to sell. It didn't sell, but, you know, fuck it. But anyway, so I called it. I went on Twitter beforehand and I saw that this guy, he ran a bespoke camping company, like a glamping company, did Coachella and stuff. And I was, oh, this guy's cool. Did a bit deep diving on Twitter, found out he was a tech DJ. So when I called him, Bob, hello, hello, hello. Ah, Ollie. Yeah, sorry, mate, I'm driving right now. Okay, keep your eyes on the road and your ears on me. Little laugh. Okay, mate, what is this? I just want to double check. This is Ollie the camping entrepreneur, or this is Ollie the tech DJ? Boom, instantly starts creasing. He's like, I'm both, mate. But he knows that I've done the research. There's two sides of him. Not everyone's this one-dimensional being. Like everyone's got their personal life, their professional life, their skeletons. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you to expose any skeletons unless you're a journalist, perhaps. But like, as a whole, it's, can I touch on another base that everyone else won't do? He sat with me on the phone. He was like, I don't know if we need a conversion rate uplift, but you know what? I rate you. I rate what you've done. I'll have a look. Simple as that. Turns up on time. Didn't buy it. My own fault. I was out of the game for a bit and didn't close it. Happens. But the point is, they don't need to come to close. They need to come because they like you, because you made them laugh, or they see value in what you're doing, or they just fucking respect you. They're here for the final bit. It's like, be the person you want to be, or they need you to be. For me, I'm not going to take a call with someone that, you know, seems like they don't have an expertise. They've just sort of put this shit together. There's no planning. And like, I get loads of even like messages online, like, can I be a closer for you and stuff? I'm like, motherfucker, even if I was hiring closers, no. Like, do the job that you're meant to do and come with a bit of fucking prowess. So for me, I'm just big on having a fucking, sorry girls, I know there's a lot of women here, but like, it's no different, but like having a pair of balls, to be honest, like calling me, telling me what you want, doing a bit of fucking due diligence, and not just spraying. Like a lot of people will just throw shit at a wall and hope that it sticks. And for content, I think it's a good methodology. I think it's a good way to go because you never know. But when it comes to sales and actually using your time appropriately and getting people to convert at the end, just take your time, make sure it turns up, win them over, and the rest will follow. More or less getting to the end now. And there, 40 minutes. This is like, you know, what good would a fucking workshop be if there wasn't a sales pitch at the end? So I'm just going to give you a bit of information. This is all the internal resources we use. There's a cold call script here, objection handling guide, an instant rapport doc, 50 best questions you can ask, and then an outbound building sheet. That's like kind of what we do. For us, obviously there's a full community. I think we opened again yesterday. There was 12 spots. I believe there's 9 left. And if you want to learn, if you want to come in, get group coaching. I know some of the guys in here are already in cowboy closers, but like, I'm a big believer in just teaching people everything they fucking need to know so they can get the outcome that they want. You know, good salespeople, they're Wetty sending me some messages. End of the day, for me, it's like, you guys are going to make the decision that you want. If you see value, and come aboard. I'm going to put this in the chat for everyone so you can have a little look. but we'll be doing these more or less every week.